Breaking news from NBA.com. Tracy McGrady has been traded from the Magic. And it's the New Jersey Nets who were in the running for Vince Carter but couldn't quite compete with the New York Knicks. But after they missed out on Carter, they end up trading for his cousin, and arguably the better cousin, the day before Christmas. New Jersey giving themselves an early Christmas present. This is the full trade, and the centerpiece of the deal is Nick Van Exel plus a top 10 protected first rounder with a backup the next year and an unprotected first rounder in 2007. And for the Magic, after failing to make the playoffs last season and failing to surround T-Mac with talent, they now lose one of the NBA's brightest and most iconic stars. McGrady now joins a Nets team that needs help badly. Last year was a step back from the previous 2 years where they made the finals. In 2004, they ended up losing in the Eastern Conference Finals in 5 games to the Pacers. After that loss, they ended up letting their second-best player, Kenyon Martin, walk in free agency to the Nuggets, and Jason Kidd was left without a sidekick. That hasn't worked so well, as the Nets are 12-17, 12th in the conference, worse than the Magic actually, who are 14-11. And how fitting is this? T-Mac and J. Kidd will debut against the Orlando Magic. For some reason, this always happens. Anytime I scheme up a trade, the two teams are playing each other right afterwards. The Nets are hoping they're back and ready to compete again with their new star, Tracy McGrady, spinning to the rim for the slam for his first bucket as a New Jersey Net. They do not win this ball game, though. The Magic win handily. Kidd and McGrady did not get much help, as their third leading scorer had just 8 points. Meanwhile, Grant Hill was ready for battle with his former teammate. The second game of the new-look Nets goes much better, blowing out a very good Supersonics team. And when Richard Jefferson is playing like this is a legitimate top big three in the NBA. So how do you like that for an intro? Here we are on Christmas Eve of year 1 of the Bobcats retro rebuild. We made a lot of progress last episode, going from only 2 games in to 29 games in. And while there have been plenty of bright spots, our spot in the standings is not one of them. Second to last in the conference, 25th in the power rankings, 10-19 is the record. We have lost 9 straight, but thankfully we're not going to have to play without our best player for very long. Mehmet Okur quickly recovers from his injury. The offensive wizard from Turkey rejoins our starting lineup. Unfortunately, we are still without Andre Iguodala. Okur and Iguodala both got injured in the same game, but Iguodala's injury was much more serious. Our first action of the episode will come the day after Christmas in a tight matchup with Allen Iverson and the 76ers. Kyle Korver is a member of this team, and he immediately drains a 3. Deshaun Stevenson has 19 points. Mehmet Okur has 34 now with that mid-range jumper. We're going to put George Lynch, our defensive specialist, on Iverson. Right now, Stevenson's guarding him, but Lynch takes the charge. Lynch has been a major glue guy for us, and he just showed us why. Okur heavily contested. Here is Glenn Robinson as Deshaun Stevenson stays in front. We keep it to a 2-point deficit. Under a minute remaining. Okur has the mismatch inside. He takes advantage. This team loves feeding Okur in the post in late game situations. He comes through more often than not. Allen Iverson out of bounds after the miss. Who is this off of, though? It's not immediately apparent. I still have no idea after the replay, but they say it's Sixers ball. John Salmons, no good on the floater. Tied at 109. And we're headed for a highlight finish. Udonis Haslem out to Mehmet Okur. Crosses over. Attacks the rack. He's fouled. He's so decisive with his ball handling. Does not come often with guys his size. 38 points after the free throws, and we have the lead. We have had, let's just say, mixed results in late game situations so far in this series. We had a Chris Webber moment. We had multiple guys take over the game late. Allen Iverson, we hope he doesn't do that, but that was a cold-blooded step back. That's just what he does, man. 111. 15 seconds to go. Shot clock is off. And guess who? Mehmet Okur in the post, but he finds Beno Udrih, who smokes the layup. Beno! That's inexcusable, man. He fakes out the defender with the pump and gets a wide open look, but he short arms it. And now we have to foul. Watch John Salmons hit one free throw, and then he misses the second. And we will advance with a timeout. 4.7 seconds. Crowd on their feet in Charlotte. Willie Green inbounds. And he immediately looks for Mehmet. Okur backing down. Slams for the lead. And 40 points. A heave from Allen Iverson. Hits the rim. But Charlotte holds on. That was a roller coaster of a finish, but finally we get a close result to go our way. And that has gotta feel cathartic, ending the 9-game losing streak with a game winner. And this Mehmet Okur guy is truly special. 40 points on 19 of 26 shooting. He didn't even need the three-pointer to be working for him to be dominant today. I gotta say, that AI step-back jumper was nasty, though. If that ended up being the game winner, I would have remembered that shot for a while. But our very next game, guess what? Is against the New Jersey Nets with Tracy McGrady. We got to see Vince Carter fresh off the trade, and now we get to see T-Mac. But Deshaun Stevenson getting fancy on the first play, missing the jumper, but that was a nice move. And there's T-Mac right away scoring the first points of the night. Alonzo Mourning starts for the Nets, and he gets the bucket off the pick and roll feed. Udonis Haslem backing down Mourning. Turn around, buries it. Gets the roll. I have no idea why Udonis showed up in the free agent player pool, but when I found out that the Heat couldn't even financially make it work to re-sign him, I had to go get the OG. Willie Green for three. McGrady guarded by Stevenson, taking him to the rim and one. And I think that's the end of Stevenson guarding McGrady. We switch Willie Green onto him, and that doesn't work either. Green got turned around. Beno Udrih now guarded by Jason Kidd, and he was made uncomfortable. Run out for McGrady off the turnover. And a quick 9-0 run for New Jersey. Is this going to be a repeat of last episode? I had to watch Vince Carter absolutely massacre this team, and Tracy McGrady has that same look in his eye right now. Stevenson couldn't get the roll. T-Mac isolated on Green. Oh, what a move. Yeah, T-Mac is fired up to be a New Jersey Net, that's for sure. Elbow pull-up goes. Man, I can really feel the difference in movement fluidity from 2K25 to 23, since I'm running series on both of those games at the moment. Jumper from Steve Blake, followed by another bucket from T-Mac. New Jersey doubling us up, 20-10. Willie Green loses the ball. And ahead of the pack in transition, Vin Baker gets the hoop and the harm. So far, it is not our day, but we do cut into the deficit in the second quarter. Nets pull back in front, 89-75 here in the fourth quarter. And we'll get some more action here. I'd say we're within striking distance. We just need a very big run. Here's Mehmet Okur going to work in the post. That's only his 10th points, but it was a beauty over Nenad Kristic. McGrady through contact. It's like he doesn't even see it. Yeah, this team is going to be a problem. I would be very surprised if they don't re-enter the playoff picture. McGrady absolutely lighting it up. And we're having to guard him at near half court, but McGrady's just going to blow by everybody. Yeah, it's a lot harder to guard superstar ball handlers and isolation scorers here in NBA 2K25. McGrady is carving us up, and then he dishes it to Alonzo Mourning for 100 points. We're only at 79 in offensive hell. T-Mac with a minute left, just playing street ball out there. My goodness. And he's got the ball again, just having fun against Willie Green. We actually forced the miss and get a stop. But then, Jason Kidd, who's for some reason still in the game, steals it away, finds McGrady. Shot clock is still on. McGrady blows by and posterizes Okur. Bobcats games have basically become shoot-arounds for opposing stars. They just get to try out new moves against us and see if it works. It usually does. Nets win big. For some reason, that Nets logo, that New Jersey Nets blue and red, makes me very nostalgic, even more so than other logos, even logos that I like more than this. There's just something about seeing New Jersey on the jersey as T-Mac pours in 39 points. Breaking news, the Raptors have traded Nazi Muhammad for Michael Olowokandi. How would you grade this trade? I think the Timberwolves won. We lose to Chicago by 5 points, and in that game, Willie Green was hurt, bruising his back out 2 to 4 weeks. Another game against the 76ers now, and again it's going our way, and whoa, suddenly we're in overtime. What happened? Up by 9 with 1:47 to go. Free throws from Iverson. Kenny Thomas makes the jumper, and then Salmons with a 3. Aaron McKee then with 2 free throws, and all of a sudden we're tied with 42 seconds left, and nobody scores until overtime. Okur had an offensive foul at the end of regulation, couldn't even get a shot off. And with 34 seconds left, the Sixers have the lead. Let's see if Mehmet Okur can do it again. We're going to give it to him on the baseline. Clock ticking. Okur, guarded by D'Alembert. He backs him down and gets the and one dunk. Look at the stat line from Mehmet Okur this game. He has outdone himself. 45, 13, and 6. And the free throw gives the Bobcats the lead. AI will take it down. Stevenson on him. On the left side, backs it out. And he will hold for the last shot. No timeout. Iverson. A flurry of moves. Drives right. Takes it in. And misses the layup. The Bobcats pull off another clutch win over AI and the Sixers, with Mehmet Okur again coming through in the clutch. I knew we were getting an incredibly talented player when I targeted him in free agency, but I'm not sure anyone saw 46, 14, and 6 in just his first season with the team. That is remarkable. I think he is the easy pick for most improved player at this moment, considering he mostly came off the bench last year, especially after the Pistons traded for Sheed. We basically have a clone of Dirk Nowitzki on this team, and I cannot properly describe how fun it is to play with him. Man, not a game to remember for Allen Iverson, though. 5 for 21. And we're going to end the new year at 12 and 21. At least we ended it with a victory. But checking out the standings, the new top team in the East is the Indiana Pacers, followed by Washington, Philadelphia, and Detroit. But still, nobody competes with the Phoenix Suns. They remain the best team in the league. Not much has changed about them from last season when they won the championship, but the West is clearly the better conference right now. Dallas and Seattle would both also be the top seed in the Eastern Conference. And we are going to be eyeing the tankathon all season long. Still 4 teams ahead of us in the lottery odds: LA, Portland, Houston, and Milwaukee. But that top lottery spot is definitely within reach, as we are 3.5 games ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks. 2K is wild because how in the world are the Cavs 14 and 19 when LeBron is putting up these stats? I mean, nobody else in the league even comes remotely close to this stat line. He leads the league in scoring while also having 8.7 assists, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, 1.7 steals. At just 20 years old, he's already putting up an all-time great season, and it's being wasted away on a terrible team. Mehmet Okur does it again with another 40-point performance, but another big loss to New Jersey on New Year's Day. T-Mac continues to dismantle us. In other news, the Pistons played the Pacers today. They had an intense first-round battle in last year's playoffs, and it's a close game. Steven Jackson has the ball with under a minute remaining, takes it inside, hits the circus shot to extend his team's lead. That ends up winning the Pacers the ball game. And look at how much respect is shown between these two bitter rivals. You know, at the end of the day, it's just a kid's game. These guys are all having fun. Look at the smile on Steven Jackson's face. Just true sportsmanship on display. Breaking news, Ron Artest has been suspended the rest of the season for punching a fan. This was in the heat of a delirious brawl that will stain the NBA's reputation for a very long time. And this couldn't have come at a worse moment for the Indiana Pacers, who have the best record in the Eastern Conference and will now have to suffice without their second best player and temporarily without their first best player and their third best player. Just an all-around unfortunate situation for everybody involved. And for the time being, the best player on the best team in the East is Jamal Tinsley. Oh, thank goodness, Andre Iguodala is back and healthy. And he's getting right back in there with 40 minutes per game. He and Mehmet are pretty much our only hope here. And breaking news, another trade has been made. Jason Williams, white chocolate, is headed to the Cleveland Cavaliers to help LeBron. The Cavs are in desperate need of a secondary ball handler as the LeBron and nobody else experiment has not worked. They're 16 and 20. LeBron James is nondescript with the state of things. But this should cheer him up, at least temporarily. Jason Williams, in year number 9, is still a quality point guard. His scoring is down, but his three-point shooting is up from last season, and the Cavs are hoping that he can just take some pressure off. It's pretty remarkable how bad they've been so far, considering how good James has been. They come off of a playoff berth in which they got swept by Dwayne Wade and the Heat, but then they lost Carlos Boozer in free agency, and it's been downhill from there. And they're going to need to be very aggressive in the trade market to be even competitive this year, and they get things off to a good start with Jason Williams. And this trade makes a lot of sense for the Grizzlies as well, who give away Jay Will, but that just opens up more playing time for Sean Livingston, a rookie who has produced very well in limited playing time. And we're in the height of trade season. It just keeps coming. The 76ers and Hornets swap starting wings as Jamal Mashburn is traded for Glenn Robinson. Mashburn has been a pretty reliable second option for the Hornets, while Glenn Robinson has seen a drop-off in scoring volume from last season, and the Sixers are looking for a sidekick for Allen Iverson. The date is January 5th, 2005, and we are just a month out from All-Star Weekend. And we resume our season with a loss to the post-Malice Pistons. They're able to beat us by 3, even though Deshaun Stevenson had 32 points. Okur also played well. Iguodala had a very good return from injury with 21, 9, and 8, 3 steals, a block, but not much help from anybody else. We lose by 9 to the Denver Nuggets, but another great game from Iggy, 4 of 4 from deep. Not able to contain Carmelo Anthony, though, who had 40. Willie Green is now healthy, but it doesn't seem to matter as we are blown out by the Trailblazers. Not exactly a bad thing, though, as we are competing with them for lottery odds. What a year-to-year improvement it's been for the Seattle Sonics, 29-12, led by a young Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis. But we're actually able to beat them behind 19-10 from Udonis Haslem and 6 different players in double figures, allowing the Sonics only 99 points. Doesn't go so well though against the Wizards. We only score 12 in the fourth quarter, but we do get back in the win column against the Raptors. We have been offered a trade from the San Antonio Spurs. They want Deshaun Stevenson, and they're willing to give Rasho Nesterovic and Devin Brown for Stevenson and George Lynch. I think I would definitely need some draft picks in return for Stevenson, but this was interesting enough for me to at least entertain until I saw the stats for Rasho Nesterovic. He is shooting under 40% from the field. Why is he even attempting three-pointers? That's a no for me. Tight game down the stretch against the Miami Heat, and we're not able to get the win. We only scored 9 in the third quarter here. And that takes us to January 22nd. Another incoming trade offer, the Warriors want Willie Green, and they're willing to give Antonio McDyess. Willie hasn't been having the best season for us. In fact, it's actually worse than his rookie year. McDyess is really not someone I'm interested in, though. I would rather have draft picks or at least someone younger than him. Nice to know, though, that we're at least receiving some calls about a few guys. Here's a big win over the New York Knicks, and for some reason, even though the Knicks destroyed us right after getting Vince Carter, they have not really lived up to the billing. And a big part of this win for us, 20 points in 17 minutes from George Lynch. Not really an offensive player, he's been much more of a glue guy for us. Here are his stats, 6.8 points per game, 4.9 rebounds. He was, I believe, the highest rated player we selected in the expansion draft, and he is also the oldest player on our team at 34 years old. I always saw him as a potential trade asset, as I think his skill set would benefit a contending team much more than it would benefit us. I really kept him on the team this long mainly to utilize his badges for the player mentorship tool, but I think he's been on the team for long enough. He just had the best game of his season offensively. I think this is the best time to trade him. And we have found a partner for the first trade of Season 1. George Lynch is headed to the Denver Nuggets for 2 second-round picks. The Nuggets aren't necessarily a championship favorite, but they do have a young core with a lot of potential, and George Lynch provides some veteran leadership. The deal is now done. And to fill the open spot on our roster, I have found Avi Story, a 6'6" swingman who is 27 years old. I just liked his mix of attribute grades, especially defensively. He can defend on the perimeter, he can also pass a little bit. He's one of the more athletic players available on the market, and I feel like he can be a pretty good replacement for George Lynch. Story signs for the minimum. Here's our new bench. I'm now rocking a 10-man rotation. Danny Fortson now getting some minutes to replace Lynch. Players like Chris Anderson, Quintel Woods, and Willie Green will also benefit. Breaking news, we have another trade around the NBA, and guess who? It's the Cavs making another move for Keith Van Horn of the Milwaukee Bucks. So Cleveland now has a quality guard and a quality stretch forward to pair with LeBron in the starting lineup. And Van Horn might be an even better acquisition than Williams, as Van Horn shoots 47% from the three-point line. And unlike Williams, who has been inconsistent from year to year, this isn't a fluke for Van Horn. This is his game. And he has shown the ability to be both a primary scoring option and a off-ball threat. Milwaukee has been the worst team in the league up to this point, so of course they're going to be trading away a 30-year-old who is one of the higher-rated players on their team and has quite a bit of trade value. But guess what? That wasn't even the biggest trade of the day. Chris Webber, shockingly, has been moved from the Kings to the 76ers. Philly has also been a major player near the deadline. They have had an underwhelming season, but now they have some extra firepower with a multi-time All-Star still at the top of his game, and he should be an excellent safety net for Allen Iverson. Now he doesn't have to do everything by himself. Those two should be a great pick-and-roll duo. In return, the Sixers send the Kings Kenny Thomas, Derek Coleman, Aaron McKee, an upcoming second-round pick, and a first-rounder 4 years in the future. This is the new-look Sixers roster. They now have two 90-plus overalls, with Jamal Mashburn also being added. That's an upgrade from Glenn Robinson. And just look at the stat line for Chris Webber. He is doing it all on the court. Philly was by no means a bad team before this trade. They are 24-21, comfortably in the playoff picture. But this could put them over the top. They now compete with the Nets for the Atlantic Division, and it's going to be a tough race to the end of the season. Meanwhile, this is kind of a puzzling move for the Kings, who have been a solid team year in and year out with Webber and a very solid lineup around him, but their front office seems to believe that they can survive without Webber, and instead Peja Stojakovic and Mike Bibby can carry this team into the playoffs. And the Sixers and Nets continue to one-up each other. Just when Philly swung for the fences, the Nets make another big move. They get Antoine Walker from the Atlanta Hawks for Kerry Kittles, a first-round pick, and a couple role players. Kittles has been a great shooter for the Nets over the years, and if he stuck around, I'm sure he'd be able to contribute. But the Nets decided that they are way too guard-heavy, and they need to trade for a forward to fit into the starting lineup better. The Hawks, meanwhile, are opening up playing time for the young Josh Smith at power forward, as well as a host of other young talents. And they do this while also acquiring Kittles, who is an off-ball scorer who can space the floor for Josh Smith. And I've been excited to get to this point in the video. One of the comments on an earlier Bobcats video suggested that I use the ATD random event generator for this series. This was something that I planned to use a lot more in the Bulls franchise than I actually did. I ended up kind of forgetting about it because I felt that the series was immersive enough without it. But I think it would be really fun for this series because it would have a chance to really alter the timeline a lot, which is kind of our goal of this series. We're rewriting history. So if you're not familiar with the attention to detail stuff on Operation Sports, I have been a huge fan of theirs for many years. I continue to use their content for my 2K My Leagues, whether I'm playing on YouTube or I'm just playing for fun. It basically works like this. I have a spreadsheet with a bunch of scenarios. I also have a list of teams with numbers assigned to them in alphabetical order. And basically what I do is I draw a random event, and then it also draws a random team and a random player at the same time. Now, sometimes the event I draw doesn't necessarily make sense for the team that I drew or the player on that team. For those situations, though, I really just use my common sense by either manually choosing the team that the event happens to, or just drawing another event altogether and scrapping the old one. There is so much detail in this spreadsheet. They have scenarios for early in the season, for the trade deadline, for after the trade deadline. There's scenarios for the playoffs, for the off-season, and I mean every stage of the off-season. I'm talking coaching carousel stuff. There's a draft combine, which gives players a chance to increase or decrease their attributes before the draft. There's free agency stuff, and then there's a training camp before the start of the new season. Of course, 2K had that feature in the past where you could upgrade one or two of your players before the season in one very specific area by taking them to a specific training camp. Well, that feature is no longer in the game, at least for my league. Maybe it's in my GM, I don't know. But I really like the way that this event generator does training camp because it gives your players a chance to develop in some unpredictable ways. They could get better, they could also get worse, and you really have no control over it, which I think is a lot more interesting than just having a guaranteed way to make your players better. But that's for another day. Right now, we have a few trade deadline events to draw. And we are going to start with a bad extension. So this is not trade related, but I have to take a player who just got extended and add 50% to his new salary. Now, not every team is extending players, so we don't have a ton of people to choose from, but I decided to go with Sharif Abdur-Rahim of the Trailblazers. And I don't actually think I'm able to increase the salary as much as I'm supposed to according to the event. The game is not letting me go over $13.16 million per season, but I guess he's going to be getting the max according to the player edit menu. The next event I have drawn is Yes, We're Tanking. Increase by 15 days all the injuries of a random lottery projected team. And that team is the Boston Celtics, who have been very underwhelming even despite the play of Paul Pierce. Their injured players right now are Maurice Evans and Kendrick Perkins. So, sorry, Perk. If you want to draft Chris Paul, we're going to have to sit you down. And finally, we have a trade demand. And the demand comes from Desmond Mason of the Milwaukee Bucks, who already traded Keith Van Horn, but still keep Desmond Mason and Michael Redd. Mason was actually someone that I tried to target in our inaugural free agency period. Mason was a restricted free agent. We offered him a deal, and the Bucks ended up matching it. But it looks like they're not going to be able to keep him for long. And we are now calling up the Bucks about their disgruntled shooting guard. Now, his play has continued to decline. This season is worse than last, and his last season was worse than the year before that. I don't know if this is a player that I want to invest a ton into. I think it might be possible to acquire him if we keep on making the deal sweeter and sweeter, but this package did not work. I tried to send them Willie Green and Danny Fortson with 3 second-round picks for Desmond Mason and Lindsey Hunter. The Bucks declined, and I really was not willing to go further than that, considering the season he's having. Instead, Desmond Mason will be headed to the Indiana Pacers. Indy has been desperate for a Ron Artest replacement after the malice at the Palace. Mason is nowhere near the same level of defender, but he at least gives them a chance to still be competitive. And we'll see if he can start fresh on the Pacers and get that efficiency back up. He does have very good scoring attributes. I'm not sure why it's not working for him. But Mason asks out, and he gets out. The price for Mason is a first-round pick, plus Jonathan Bender, a 7-foot-tall small forward, 23-year-old former first-round pick for the Pacers. He hasn't really been able to find a spot in the rotation. Of course, he's been playing a lot more since the suspension of Artest, but he hasn't quite broken out yet, and the front office is starting to lose faith in him. The Bucks are taking a flyer on Bender, given his size, his balanced skill set, and the B potential grade. And I think that's going to do it for a very busy trade season. This has been really fun for me to execute so far, given the addition of the event generator, plus just the ability to play with NBA history, do some real trades but change them up a little bit, do some trades that almost happened but didn't happen in real life. So far, this series has really scratched my creative itch. And on to the few games heading up to the All-Star break. The Cavaliers get off to a good start with the addition of Williams and Van Horn, defeating us 98-86. And we take another loss to the Wizards. For some reason, it's felt like we played them more than 4 times this year, even though we haven't. And here's an interesting simcast game against the Sacramento Kings. We're going to jump in up by 2 with 6 minutes remaining. Some action to close out the episode. Here's Steve Blake dishing it off to Mehmet Okur. has a mismatch on Mike Bibby, and Okur takes him inside for 2. What do you think of this new camera angle? I'm just trying new things right now. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it, but this is, I believe, the high rail cam. It definitely makes for a different playing experience. Deshaun Stevenson and Mehmet Okur lead the scoring. Not much from the other guys. We're going to put in Willie Green, moving Andre Iguodala to the power forward position. We're taking out Udonis Haslem. Going small here against the Weberless Kings as Stevenson knocks down a jumper. Cats up by 4. Kenny Thomas, the newest 76er, lays it in. Deshaun Stevenson guarded by Peja, driving around him and drawing a foul. Stevenson is an underrated ball handler. Back to a 4-point lead, and Stojakovic way too open there. We get away with the miss, and then Kenny Thomas throws it away. Steve Blake up top, driving inside, out to Andre Iguodala. Misses the straightaway 3. Doug Christie to Stojakovic to Mike Bibby. He's got a sweet shooting stroke. 2:30 to go. Stevenson running the pick and roll. Okur pops out and drains that triple. 24 points. Mike Bibby steps back and swishes that. Under 2 minutes. Okur, well defended by Brad Miller at the rim. 107-105. Here's Okur, running out of gas there, can't hit the jumper. Fatigue is setting in, we need to find a way to get a stop. Mike Bibby, lowering his shoulder into Blake. Finding Stojakovic outside, drawing a double team, passes it out. Mike Bibby open, hits again! The Kings now lead with under a minute remaining. Okur, isolated, backing down Miller, but aborts. Out to Iguodala, now Blake wants a screen for Miggy. Blake rejects it and throws it away to Kenny Thomas. This camera angle is playing tricks on me as Christie finds Stojakovic, no good. Miller with the rebound and the putback. Just terrible execution right now. And now we're down by 3. Shot clock still on. Blake finds Green cutting baseline. And now we've most likely got a foul. Shot clock still on, but too risky to let them run out the entire clock like that. Mike Bibby, though, is very good at free throws, and he makes it 3 points again. How can we scheme up an open three-pointer? It's Steve Blake on the right wing. Now veers inside. Gets it back out to Okur. Step back jumper. Good, but it's only 2. We continue to pray that they can miss a free throw or 2. The Kings advance, and we foul Kenny Thomas. Not sure how good of a free throw shooter he is. That one bounces in. The second from Thomas is good. And we again need a three-pointer to tie. This time, there's not enough time to go for the 2. We advance with our final timeout. 5.4 seconds on the clock. And it's not too long ago that I realized that you can actually call inbounds plays. There's still a very small selection. I really hope they're able to add more inbounds plays in future games. But this is what we're going with here. Stevenson will cut inside. And then Steve Blake off a couple screens. 3. No! We got the open look we wanted. That was a very good play there. I think I'm going to be using that in the future. But it's not able to tie the game up and send us to overtime. Sacramento wins. And that is our final game before the All-Star break. And that will take us to the end of this episode. Deshaun Stevenson with another very good offensive showing. I feel like I haven't really sung his praises very much so far this season, even though he has been a major reason why we haven't been worse than we are. He and Okur have been the leaders of our offense, and they've been doing it quite well. Can't really ask for much more from them. I think our real weakness is the defense, who just allowed 35 points and 9 assists to Mike Bibby. So 49 games into the season, we have a 15-31 record, so winning just under 1/3 of our games. Somehow, though, our team chemistry is at 97%. Hopefully, the power of friendship will lead our team to a better place in the future. Fan interest at 94.1% isn't half bad either, especially considering that the old Hornets left largely because of a lack of fan interest. And we have moved up one spot in the Tankathon. We have moved above Portland, Chicago also one spot behind us, and we are tied with the Lakers with an identical record. The Rockets and Bucks, though, are still slightly worse than us. All-Star Weekend is around the corner, and the All-Star teams are finalized. Allen Iverson, Jason Kidd, Shaq, LeBron, and Paul Pierce will start in the East. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get an All-Star appearance for Mehmet Okur. They actually put Rasheed Wallace in there over a lot of guys who I feel were more deserving. Wallace is having his worst statistical season in a while. 14.8 points on 44% shooting and 22 from deep. I think this is bad enough where I need to step in and make a change. I was tempted to give it to Okur. I do feel like he's more deserving than Rasheed Wallace. However, I do want to shy away from just giving my players random awards and appearances that they didn't earn by themselves. I mainly just want to use the override tool to swap CPU players with CPU players. And in this case, I'm giving it to his teammate Rip Hamilton. I think he has been much better. He's averaging over 20 points per game on better efficiency. The Western All-Stars are headlined by Tim Duncan and Dirk Nowitzki. Kobe, despite being on a terrible team, is still playing well enough individually to earn a starting nod. Stephon Marbury now getting a lot more respect than he did in the past. He now starts in the All-Star game, and Pau Gasol is the 5th starter. And this is the first All-Star game for two of the youngest, brightest stars in the league, LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony. Melo has been very impressive so far, leading the Denver Nuggets. Yao Ming also gets a nod, while Jason Richardson has also really taken off as a scorer this season. But that's going to be our stopping point for this episode. Next time I'm going to go through All-Star Weekend, and we will have some action there as Mehmet Okur and Andre Iguodala will play in the Rising Stars rookie-sophomore game. And from there, it's just going to be full speed ahead to the end of Season 1. I'm also looking to switch to live commentary for next episode. I'm not sure if I want to make that change permanently for this series, but I want to at least experiment with it. I want a good mix of live commentary and post-commentary series. And since I already have 2 post-commentary series that I can't really switch to live with UTEP and also the Chicago Bulls franchise I still have, I want to be able to spend less time per video on my smaller, more casual projects like this series. I would have switched already, but since I played ahead a little bit, I had to edit down all the footage I had already captured before I can switch to live. And this is the last bit of footage that I had before I can finally make that switch. Hopefully that still makes for an entertaining experience next episode. It's going to be a little bit different. The commentary might have a little bit more mistakes than you might be used to watching my channel, but I'm trying to challenge myself to call games live because that's going to be a lot more beneficial for my broadcasting skills in the long run. But anyway, thank you all for watching another Bobcats video. If you like what you see, I'd really appreciate if you left a like, left a comment with some feedback, subscribe to the channel, turn post notifications on to stay updated, and recommended me to a friend. Also, feel free to check out all the other series I have going on right now with the Bulls, with the UTEP Miners, and the Toronto Blue Jays. Have a good rest of your day, everybody, and I will see you in the next one very soon.